Is all right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Nun Zion, and we left off towards the bottom, the two dots, 6 lines from the bottom of Nun Vav Amud Beis. At the end of yesterday's Daf, the end of kind of the back half of kind of a shorter Amud, we touched on the Dalet Shomer. And we said that today is really going to focus a lot on the Dalet Shomer. So let's just take a second to just kind of refresh on the Dalet Shomer. So we've got the Shomer Chinam, the Shomer Sachar, the Socher, and the Shoel. The Shomer Chinam and the Shomer Sachar are both share the same characteristic that they do not use the object. So the Shomer Chinam is someone who is unpaid. He's really doing someone a favor. He says, I'll watch your thing, for the next whatever. The Shomer Sachar is similar. He doesn't use the object, but at least he gets paid to watch. There are two main differences between the Shomer Chinam and the Shomer Sachar, outside of the fact that one gets paid and one doesn't, but that are going to play themselves out in today's daf. And that is that a Shomer Chinam is patur for pretty much everything except for shia. So certainly if there's an ones, he's going to be patur. Even if the item is just stolen or lost, he's also patur. As opposed to the Shomer Sachar, who's patur from an ones, but to the extent the item is stolen or lost from the Shomer Sachar's rishus, he's going to be chayiv. The other thing that's just worth speaking up, because it's going to play itself, in this today's daf, is that the Shomer Chinam, because of the fact that he's unpaid, his level of shmir, the expectation of him, is also less. So we've kind of seen the concept that there are some people where they only have to do a shmir pchusa as opposed to a shmir me'ula. So the Shomer Chinam is only expected to kind of do the shmir pchusa. He's not paid, as opposed to the Shomer Sachar, who has kind of a higher standard of what he has to do. Then we've got the Socher and the Shoel. Both the Socher and the Shoel use the object. The Socher pays for the right to use the object. He's a renter. The Shoel uses the object and doesn't even pay for it. So the Shoel is chayav everything. He's chayav onsin. He's always chayav, right? He's borrowing an object, so you borrow at your own risk. The Socher, how he's treated is a big machlokas Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda. Is he a Shomer Chinam or a Shomer Sachar? We're even going to see it's even a machlokas who holds what. It's even a machlokas amarim, which of Rav Meir and which of Rav Yehuda holds Shomer Chinam or Shomer Sachar. But today's daf is really the question is going to be, what about a Shomer Aveda, right? So when you find an Aveda on the street, you have a mitzvah of returning it, right? Before you return it, for the week that you have it, right, until the guy comes up, are you a Shomer Chinam or are you a Shomer Sachar? And that's the kasha, that is today's daf. So again, beginning 6-7 lines from the bottom of Nun Vav Amud Beis. Idmar. Shomer Aveda, someone who is a Shomer Aveda. He has to do Hashavas Aveda. Rabba Amar Kashomer Chinam Dami. Rav Yosef Amar Kashomer Sachar Dami. Rabba says, during the time that you've got the object, you're a Shomer Chinam. Rav Yosef says you're a Shomer Sachar. Rabba Amar Kashomer Chinam Dami. My Hana Kamatile. You're not paid, right? What Hana are you getting for this?
You didn't want to do it.
You didn't want to do it. You just found a thing, right? So he kind of makes a lot of sense, right? You're a Shomer Chinam. Rav Yosef Amar Kashomer Sachar Dami. Ba'ahi Hana Delo Baya LaMisvala Rifta LaAnya. Have a Kashomer Sachar. And this is kind of famously, it's kind of what's known sometimes as Pruta Rav Yosef. But because of the fact that you are now engaged in doing a mitzvah, to the extent that an ani came to your door looking for tzedakah, in theory, you'd be pater. Rashi says, Osek b'mitzvah pater min mitzvah, you are pater, and therefore with the hana that you have, that you can kind of avoid giving this ani tzedakah, that's enough to make you a Shomer Sachar. Tosfos is a very, very, very long Tosfos here, right? Kind of speaks out some fine print. He's like, you have this thing for a week. You don't have to not daven for a week. That's not how this works. But if you are a Shomer Aveda, there's going to be times where you are physically osek in the mitzvah. You got to post a sign or whatever you have to do. In those moments, you clearly are going to be an osek the mitzvah, patrim in a mitzvah, and should an ani come to you while you're on the phone with the owner, something like that, then maybe you wouldn't have to necessarily give this guy tzedakah, and maybe that's the hana that we're talking about, but not lav dafka for a full week. You just don't daven, or you don't have to keep Shabbos that week, or whatever. I don't know, whatever it is. That was probably a bad example, but you don't have to, do any mitzvahs for the next week because you're a Shomer Aveda. Okay, but then the Gemara says, "Ika the mafreshi hachi." Thumb actually gave a different reason for Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef Amar Shomer Sachar Dami came under Rahmana Shabde Bal Karche Hilkach the Shomer Sachar Dami, and this really focuses on the other aspect, where we said that a Shomer Chinam only has to do a Shmira Pchusa, and the reason is he never had to do this in the first place. right? He's deciding to do you a favor. He's doing you a favor, so he's only going to do a shmir p'chisa. But Rabbi Yosef says that's not how it works by a shomer aveda. God is telling you you must hang on to this thing and return it to the owner. And if God is telling you have to do it, it wouldn't make sense that you'd only have to do a shmira p'chisa. You'd have to do a higher level of shmira. If Hashem is telling you you have a chiyuv to return this thing to your owner, and that's why Rabbi Yosef says he's a shomer stachar. So as you see, the Gemara says in the parenthetical, right? Simin, I don't know, 6 words, right? Achzir olam, hashev, chia, amar, nishbar, stachar. So we're going to have a series. That's going to be the whole daf today. Is a series of these aces going back and forth to understand: is the shomer aveda a shomer stachar or is he a shomer chin?
Is there a difference for the shomer chinam if he's asked to watch it versus parents watch it?
Well, the shomer chinam is always asked.
Oh, okay.
Right. I mean, I guess in theory you can volunteer, but it's probably not.
You could overhear somebody saying, "Oh,
yeah,
somebody did. I can do it."
Yeah, I mean, that you're right. That's probably the same.
But then he's taking on some responsibility. Anyway, sorry.
Yep. So Eisvei Rav Yosef l'Rabba. So again, Rav Yosef, who's of the opinion that he's a shomer sachar, is now asking a kasha on Rabba, and this kasha is going to be from a Tosefta and Bava Metzia. So the second paragraph of Bava Metzia is Ela Metzia, like it deals with Hashavas Aveda, right? So that's where this is coming from. So the Tosefta says as follows: Techzira l'makom she'ir ena eno chayav l'tapel. If I'm a shomer Aveda, so long as I put it in a place where the owner should see it. So for example, I put it by the guy's stender, right? Then eno chayav l'tapel. Sounds like I've done my part. Nignava o avda chayav b'achrusa. But to the extent that the item gets stolen or lost from my house, meaning I'm the shomer Aveda, and before I have a chance to give it back to you, it's stolen or lost from my house, I'm chayav, right? So Rabbi Yosef says, who's chayav neva Aveda? Shomer sachar. So that very much sounds like the shomer Aveda is a shomer sachar. From the fact that he's chayav if it's neva Aveda. So let's just read it inside. My nigneva o avda, lab nigneva mi beso, but avna mi beso. Isn't what this Bryce is basically saying is to the extent this thing gets stolen or lost from the shomer Aveda's house, then the shomer Aveda is going to be chai. Rabba says back, no, not at all. Lo mi makom shech zira, right? No, all this Bryce is saying is you're allowed to put it by the guy's stender, but if it gets lost or stolen from the guy's stender, then you're going to be chayiv, right? So it's not saying from your house. If it got lost or stolen from your house, so then you're potter, you're a shomer chinam. If you want to return to the guy's stender, you can, but if it gets lost or stolen from the stender, you're going to be chayiv. So Rav Yosef says back, how do you even read one line to the next? What does it mean? You're allowed to put it by the guy's stender. You're allowed to put it where he'll see it. But if anything happens to it, you're chayiv. So then you can't put it, by the guy's stender, right? How do you make sense out of this? So Amar Lei, Rav Yosef says, no, this is how it goes. Tichzira shachris l'makom she'ir ena ushliach ta'ayel v'nafik v'chazile enu chayav t'habava. But echdira b'tzarayim l'makom she'ir ena d'lo shliach ta'ayel v'nafik d'lo chazila v'nigneva avda chayav b'achrius. Essentially, what it means is you have to understand the context, right? Take our example of a stender, right? If I'm a shomer aveda, I'm allowed to put it by a guy's stender if I think he's going to see it, but it has to be a time where the guy's going to come and see it. So in the morning, where I know that a guy's going to come to shul, I can put something by a stender, he's going to see it. But at 10 in the morning, it's all good. But at 10 in the But at 10 in the morning, I can't come put it by a stender knowing that the guy's not going to come and see it till the next day. Now I'm leaving it all day. It's going to be there. That already is irresponsible of me, right? Because if I leave it there knowing that he's not going to see it for the next full day, now there's a risk that someone else might come and might get lost. So again, the halacha is I can put it somewhere where the guy's going to find it. I don't have to hand it to him, but I need to use my sift. I need to do it at a time where the guy's going to come, right? If I know the guy's going to come soon, then I can put it by a stender. If the guy's not going to come for the next day or two, then of course I can't leave it by a stender. I got to give it to him. Okay. Eisvei, one more time. This is Eisvei. This is Rav Yosef trying to prove to Rabbah that it's the shomer sachar. La'olam hu chayiv atshach. That you would be a shomer sachar?
Yeah, because you said it's not something you wanted to do, it's something you're kind of,
Yeah. No.
I mean,
You're not volunteering.
Actually, because you're not
You're not getting paid. That would be you're not getting paid.
That seems like how often is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Either way, so Ace Ve'la'olam hu chayiv ashach nirena lir shusa. It says that you're going to be chayiv until you put it back in his rishus. So the Gemara says, "Ma'ila olam lava filu mi." So doesn't that sound like you're always going to be chayiv, even if it's stolen from your house, right? But it sounds like you're a shomer sachar. Shomer chinim is not chayiv if it's stolen from your house. So it sounds like it's the shomer chinim shmami na geshomer sachar dami. So Amar Le, so now this is Rabbah saying back to Rav Yosef, the context of this second Tosefta was really if the item that was lost was a balchai, it was like an animal. So he says, Amar Le, Modina lecha b'balei chayim. They came into Nakti Lahu Nigra Brisa Barni Trusi Yaserta. He says, totally different, right? If what I found was an animal, now clearly I need to do a better level of shmira because this animal has a propensity to walk off the herd, right? Clearly, from the fact that it was lost in the first place, the animal, or maybe it's a dog, let's say, from the fact that a dog is lost, it's got a propensity to like get lost. So if I take possession of this dog and I'm going to give the dog back to the owner, I need to know that I can't just leave it in my yard. If I walk off the same way it walked off from the other guy's yard. So again, normally when you're a shomer aveda, you are a shomer chinam. And normally all that requires is a shmir pchusa. But a shmir pchusa means different things if it's an inanimate object or if it's a dog. So even a shmir pchusa by a dog means I need to watch it. I need to make sure it doesn't walk off again. So Rabbah says, I'm not bothered by your kasha. Okay, so now we're going to flip the script a little bit. Esve Rabbah l'Rav Yosef. Now Rabbah is going to go on the offensive, and he's going to ask the kasha to Rav Yosef. Again, Rabbah says it's a shomer chinam. Rav Yosef says it's a shomer sachar. So the pasuk by Hashavas Aveda says the following. It says, Lo sira, there's a pasuk in Kiseitze. Lo sira es sharachicha o es steyo nidachem v'salamta mehem. Don't see your friends, animal, whatever it is, and just ignore it. Hashev tishivim leachicha. Double lashon. Hashev tishivim. So the Gemara says, Hashev ein li'ala beveso. If it tells me to return it, that means I have to return it to the person's house. Leginaso ulerchuvaso minayin. How do I know that I'm also allowed to return it to his garden or to his, I don't know, deserted place? I'm not entirely sure what a chavaso is, but how do I know that I can only return it to his property that's not necessarily his house? Talmud tishivim mikamach. That's the double lashon of hashev tishivim. So Rabbah says, "My leginasu l'rechovaso." What does this mean that you can return it to his garden or to his churva? If you're telling me I need to return it to his guarded, his gated garden and his gated churva, so then hainu beso. I mean, what's the chiddush? I mean, that's essentially returning it to his house. So elamai elapshita leginasu she'enem mishtemeres l'rechovaso she'enem mishtemeres and shma minak shomer chinam dami. Again, if what we're debating is what's the level of shmira that I have to do. If I'm allowed to throw it back into his front yard that's not guarded, it doesn't sound like a shmira me'ula. It sounds like it's a shmira pchusa. And it would seem to be the chiddush is that I'm a shomer chinam, and that's why I have the ability to just drop it off in his front yard. That in theory someone else can come and grab it, right? Amar Le, Rav Yosef says back to Rabbah, no. Olam leginaso mishtemeres. Really, I'll tell you, no. It means it's gated backyard that no one else can take it. So what was the kasha? Then isn't that the same thing as the house? What's the chiddush? So hakamash malan delo beinan das bailam. The chiddush is that you can throw it into his backyard without telling the owner. Rabbi Lazar, the Amr Rabbi Lazar, hakol tzrichin das bailam. You always need whenever you have a chiyuv to return something. So Rashi says, let's be a ganev or a gazlan or any one of the dalit shomrim. Whenever you need to return something, you always need to let the owner know that you are returning it. Chutz mi Hashavas Aveda. Hashavas Aveda is the one exclusion. Sharei rifsit bo Torah hashavos harbe. Because we said the pasuk says hashev tishivim. Therefore, you don't even have to tell the owner that you are returning his thing. So again, we have this machlokas Rabbah and Rav Yosef. Shomer Aveda, is he a shomer chinam or is he a shomer sachar? Rav Yosef says he's a shomer sachar. Abaya happened to grow up in Rabbah's house. He also happens to be a Talmud of Rav Yosef. So he's very conflicted in this machlokas. And Abaya is going to enter the chat. And it says, Amarle Abaya l'Rav Yosef. So now Abaya says to Rav Yosef, who again holds shomer sachar. He says, Ba'at lo tizbra the shomer aveda shomer chinam dami. Do you really disagree with Rabbah? Do you really think that a shomer aveda is like a shomer sachar and not a shomer chinam? Oh wait, so we have to just introduce one other halacha right now. Every single one of these questions requires a little bit of an introduction. So if you have a shomer chinam, right, the halacha is that he is pater if something is, let's say, stolen or lost, right? Or if there's an onus. But he's not just like putter, he has to take a shvua, right? And if he takes the shvua, then he's putter. What happens if the shomer chinam himself really stole a thing? So he lies and he says the thing was stolen from me. So he takes a shvua and he says and he lies. Fine. Now Adam come along and say he's actually the gun, and we realize that the shomer chinam was the gun. The pasuk says that the shomer chinam has to pay kefal to the original owner. Now, just to play this out, this is something that's dafka by a shomer chinam, not a shomer sacher. Why? Because if a shomer sacher lied and said this thing was stolen, we would say, okay, so pay for it. A shomer sacher is chayiv if something is stolen from the shomer sacher. So therefore, the shomer sacher would never have to pay kefal to the owner because the shomer sacher would have already paid the owner when he claimed it was stolen, right? So this is dafka, a halacha by a shomer chinam. That the shomer chinam, if he turns out to be lying, the shomer chinam needs to pay kefal. Having said that, now this is going to be Abaya's question to Rav Yosef. The same halacha that we just said by a shomer chinam is true by someone who's toin is kind of ba'aveda mishalan tashlumei kefal. The shomer aveda, if he lies and he says it was stolen, but turns out it wasn't stolen, he's the one that stole it, he has to pay kefal to the owner. Now, if shomer sacher havi, if you're going to tell me that shomer aveda is like a shomer sacher, amay mishalan tashlumei kefal, karnaba ishlumi. Why would he ever have to pay kefal? The second he says it was stolen, he's got to pay the Karen, right? He's got to pay the owner. So this seems like a clear raya that a shomer aveda is a shomer chinam, not a shomer sacher. Amar le. So Rav Yosef says back, no. Hacha ma'askinan kigon shetoin tainis listim mizuyim. The shomer sacher can also be pater if he claims that it was stolen. In one case, if he claims it was stolen from listim mizuyim. Listim mizuyim are kind of armed robbers, right? So the guy claims that he was like mugged and the guy at gunpoint. That's an onus. Right, so shomer sacher is going to be chayiv for gneva aveda. He's not going to be chayiv for an onus, right? So if the shomer sacher says that the guy that stole it from me used a gun, it was a listim mizuyin, that's how he can pater himself. But we'll speak out the next question outside. There's that's where we're going. That's the rest of the daf. Exactly that question. Only by geneva, not by gazela. So the question is listim mizuyin. Someone, first of all, what's the difference between a ganev and a gazlan? A ganev is someone who steals without you knowing about it. They come and then they sneak into your house and they take your thing. A gazlan comes right up to your face and he steals whatever it is, right? He has more hubris, is that the word? He just comes and takes it from you. A listim mizuyin, does it sound like a ganev or a gazlan? It sounds like a gazlan. He comes right up to your face and he steals it from you. What's the difference between a ganev and a gazlan? A ganev pays kefal. A gazlan does not pay kefal. So Abayis is back to Rav Yosef. I hear you that a shomer sacher can claim listim mizuyin, he would be pater, but there wouldn't be a kefal, right? So let's read it inside.
Okay.
Why? I think it's just a pasuk. The pasuk says that I got it.
Why the difference? Raising to do still because you're asking why kefal by God number.
Yeah.
Because it said Ganav, since you have Hashem,
Yeah.
Hashem, you're only afraid of the people.
So that's an added punishment. Not very good. Yeah, probably, I don't know. So Amrle, Hakam Askin, going to show time listen to. So Amrle, so now Abaye is saying back to Rav Yosef, listen, Mizuyan Godlin who? He's not a Ganav, he's a Godlin. What's the point? If he's a Godlin, there shouldn't be kefal in the first place. So how does that make any more sense, right, over here? So Amrle, so Rav Yosef says, this is the Chiddush, Sha'ani Omer, listen, Mizuyan, Kevan de Mitmar, Mi'inshi, Ganav. He said, no. I don't think it's a Goslin. Because a Goslin is someone who comes right up to your face and steals the thing. This listim mizuyin, he's probably wearing a ski mask, he's hiding in the bush, right? He's got a gun, but he's still hiding, right? What?
Just what's happening right now.
Oh, right, yeah. So the point is this. So this is Rav Yosef's Chiddush, and this is really going to be the rest of the daf. Is really focusing on this secondary shaila of someone who's a listim mizuyin. Is he a ganev or is he a gazlan? It's going to play itself out. If someone's a listim mizuyin, does he pay kefal or does he not pay kefal? Rav Yosef says a listim mizuyin is a ganev, not a gazlan, and therefore he pays kefal. And that's how I can make this kasha that you just had on me is not a kasha because this halacha of Rav Yochanan is where there was listim mizuyin. Okay. So Esvei, let's turn the page. Now this is actually fascinating. This next Esvei, if you look at the top Rashi, before we even get there, Rashi says Masnisihi v'lo yadana hefatanya. Actually, Rashi just says I don't even know where this is. Tosfos says that this is it's a sugya in Bava Metzia. That's what he says. So let's just speak out the sugya because this ace is coming like midstream. It's kind of hard to appreciate what's going on. So there's sukkim by a shomer chinam and a shomer sachar, but we'll start with the shomer chinam that says that let's say a shomer chinam says that something was stolen from me, whatever it is. Again, he's putter, but he has to make a shvua. What's the shvua that he makes? That he didn't use the item at all. If it turns out he used the item at all, then he's chayiv even ba'onas. So a shomer chinam is not allowed to use the item. If he uses the item, then all bets are off. Then you're chayiv for everything. That's what the pasuk says. The pasuk that then reiterates, and this is the same thing by a shomer sachar. The shomer sachar, if he wants to claim onas, he can. You have to make a shvua that but the shvua is they didn't use it at all. And the Gemara and Bava Metzia says, I don't understand. If I knew the halacha by a shomer chinam, so why did you tell me by a shomer sachar? Shouldn't be a kal v'chomer. If a shomer chinam can't use the thing, so for sure, shomer sachar can't use the thing. So here's where this ace is picking up, right? This is where this price is picking up. And it's saying it's not such a strong kal v'chomer. I have a pirach on the kal v'chomer. Because lo im amr b'shomer chinam, shekei masham tashlumin kefel. I have a certain chumra by a shomer chinam that a shomer chinam can pay kefel, where he claims it was stolen. Turns out he stole it himself. He will be chayiv the kefel. But you can't say that by a shomer sachar that never pays the shomer kefel. Therefore, I have a pircha on this kal v'chomer. But now this is the Gemara now talking. This is the Baya talking to Rav Yosef. If you'll tell me that a list of Mizuin is a ganiv, what is this pircha talking about at this brisa? Shomer Sachar also pays kefil. When would it play out that Shomer Sachar pays kefil? If the Shomer Sachar claimed that it was stolen by Listim Mizuyin and he lied, he would have to pay kefil to the Baal Pikadon. So I don't understand what's this Bryce's problem with the Kal V'chomer. It's a good Kal V'chomer, right? This isn't a good pircha. So Rav Yosef says back to Abaya, Amar Lei Hachi Kamar. Lo im Amar b'Shomer Chinam shkeim misham tshum kefil b'chol ta'anosa. The Shomer Chinam always pays kefil. Every single claim of aveda. Tomar b'Shomer Sachar sheinam sham tshum kefil all between times listed Mizuyin. You're right. You can come up with a case where a Shomer Sachar might have to pay kefil, but that's already a goofy case. Meaning clearly, it's much more likely for the Shomer Chinam to have to pay kefil as opposed to the Shomer Sachar. Okay, so Asavei. This next one is dealing with a shoel. So we said, what's the halacha by a shoel? A shoel is a borrower. He doesn't pay any money, and he borrows, and therefore he is chayiv even for an ones, right? Mm-hmm. So the Brisa says as follows, right? V'nishbar o meis. The pasuk says that shoel is going to be chayiv if there's an ones. Ainli ella shvura umeis. I only know that he's chayiv if there's an ones. Gneva va'aveda minayin. How do I know that a shoel is chayiv if there's only gneva va'aveda? The Brisa says, "Amar kal v'chomer." Kal v'chomer. Shomer sachar shepater bo shvura umeisa. A shomer sachar who's pater by an ones still chayiv gneva va'aveda. So shoel shechayiv b'shvura umeisa ino dishu chayiv gneva va'aveda. So a shoel who is chayiv when it comes to ones, ino din that he's going to be chayiv for gneva va'aveda. And then the Brisa finishes, "V'zeu kal v'chomer she'ein alav tshuva." This is like an ironclad kal v'chomer. Once I know that a shomer sachar is chayiv gneva va'aveda, I definitely know that a shoel is chayiv gneva va'aveda. Again, because the shoel is chayiv ones. So the Gemara says, Abaya asking Rav Yosef, if you think that a list of mizuyin constitutes a ganiv, am I anal of tshuva? Why is there no pirach on this kal v'chomer? Ikala mifrach mala shomer sachar shkeim shlam tashlumin kefel betoin tainis list of mizuyin. There is a time where a shomer sachar can be chayiv kefel, and the shoel can never be chayiv kefel. Because no matter what the shoel says, even if it says list of mizuyin, at best that's an ones, and he's chayiv an ones. Right? You hear the kasha? So why are you telling me? Why is this Brisa telling me you've got this kal v'chomer and you can't even ask any pirachas on this kal v'chomer? I can ask a pirachah, right? A shomer sachar at times has to pay kefel. Amarle. So, who does the thief pay? So in these cases, the Baal Pikadon, the shomer sachar is the thief. He's lying.
I understand.
In a real case.
Regular case.
So it's funny that that's going to be the next case of the Gemara, but the case is where the shomer sachar. So for example, but we'll speak it out. Let's say a shomer sachar is chayiv gneva va'aveda, right? Let's say he pays the gneva va'aveda, right? Then we find the ganav. The ganav pays kefil to the shomer sachar. The shomer sachar steps into the shoes of. That is going to be the next case of the Gemara.
He can make a profit.
He can make a profit, exactly. He steps into the shoes of the Baal. And the guy's gonna have to pay him.
No, we can go, thank you.
But late. But again, what's the question? Yeah, no spoilers. Yeah, if anyone's watching at home. But either way, right? But what's the kasha that we're dealing with right now? The kasha is, how do you understand this price? This price said there is no pircha to this kavachomer. There's a pircha to the kavachomer. A shomer sacher has a chumrah over a shoel because there are times where the shomer sacher has to pay kefil and the shoel never has to pay kefil. Amar later, Rabbi Yosef says back to Abaya because of our haitana karna below shua adipa mikvela b'shua. Says I don't know that that's necessarily a chumrah. I mean, you compare the two sides. On the one hand, a shomer sacher at times might have to pay kefil. Why? If he claims listen mizuyin, he lied. He then took a shvua and lied, and he was caught to be a liar. That's when he has to pay kefil. Where you compare that to the shoel, who just always has to just pay the Karen right off the bat. He said, "I actually think the shoel is more chomer than the shomer sacher." Right? So that's again.
What's the technicality of the show?
Exactly. Yeah. So he says, "Wait, oh my God, I'm like, Abe, you are making me dizzy right now. I'm on camera. I don't know what's going on. Turn your Can you turn your camera off? Or not, whatever you want." All right, Lema Misayele. So now the Gemara says maybe we'll provide some support to Rev Yosef's halacha that a list of mizuyin constitutes a ganiv and not a gav. So the Gemara says, Lema Misayele. Hasocher paramechavera. So the case is going to be where you have a regular socher. Rented, right? I pay for the right to use your cow. Socher paramechavera. Vidnignava. Then it gets stolen from the socher. Ba'amar hala, hareini mishalim, be'eni nishba. And the guy says, listen, I know that I can take a shvua and I can get myself out of this, but I don't want to take a shvua. That's a whole big deal. I'll just pay. But it truly was stolen. This was not him playing games. It was truly stolen from the socher. He says, I can probably get myself out of this. I'd rather pay and be done with it. And this is Mark's case. The Ganav is now found, right? So the socher paid. Now we found the Ganav. He has to pay the Shtumei Kefel to the socher. Now we open the daf. We said there's actually a big machlokas of Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. What is the status of a socher? Is he a shomer chinam or is he a shomer sacher? Right? So the Gemara says, "Kavrua Rabbi Yehuda."
He's already paid to rent it. So then, if it gets stolen, he pays the actual besides does he take off the value that you paid?
I don't know. We'll have to maybe. Yeah, it's a good point.
You're going to pay for it anyways, so therefore.
I don't know if
to rent it, you might not maybe take it off the value of the.
Going back to when I was in high school, if I rented a movie from Blockbuster and I paid $4 and then I lost the movie, presumably I have to still pay for the movie, right? I don't know.
Probably still do.
Probably.
It's interesting idea.
Yeah.
Kind of like a short board, you take up the added value.
Yeah. No, very good. So the Gemara says, "Tavruach Rabbi Yehuda Damar Socher Knosei Safar Dami." Presumably, we are holding like Rabbi Yehuda, who says that a socher is like a shomer sacher, right? So he's like a shomer sacher. Therefore, a shomer sacher would normally be chayiv for gneva v'aveda. So let's go through this case one more time more carefully. The socher, who is like a shomer sacher, he's got this item. The item is stolen. What does he say? He says, I can get myself out of this with a shvua, but I'm going to pay. What are you talking about? If he's a shomer sacher, how does he get out of this with a shvua? Even if it was stolen, and it was stolen, he's still chayav to pay, right? So what must the case be where he's tining listim mizuyin? That's how he gets out of it, by saying it was an onus. Otherwise, how is he getting out of it? So let's see this inside. From the fact that the socher, who, like we said, is treated like a shomer sacher, from the fact that he said, I would like to pay, and I don't want to swear, Miklal, the boy, sounds like he could have gotten himself out of this with a shvua. What's the case? It must be where he could have claimed listim mizuyin. Uktani, and what does the Brisa say? And it sounds like that when we actually find the Ganev, or the listim mizuyin in this case, he's got to pay kefel to the socher. This sounds like mafurish raya that a listim mizuyin has to pay kefel, right? Shmami, now listim mizuyin ganevu. So now we actually have a support. We have we have support to Rav Yosef. Amri, but they said, I mean, me sabras Rabbi Yehuda damar socher kanose sachar dami. Dilma Rav Meir really damar shomer socher shomer chinam dami. This whole thing is resting on the assumption that a socher is like a shomer socher. You can just as easily say that a socher is like a shomer chinam. If the socher is like a shomer chinam, what's our case? You don't have to come out of list in Mizuyin. The shomer chinam could have gotten out of paying by just taking a shvua. He decided not to. He wanted to pay. But now we don't have to be dealing with a list of Mizuyin. We're dealing with a regular case of Geneva, and the socher is like a shomer chinam. He's not like a shomer socher. And Ibaya same the Gemara says, if for whatever reason you really want to make this like Rabbi Yehuda as opposed to Rav Meir, we can make that work too. Because Kidamachlif Rabba Bar Avua Batani socher Ketzim Mishalim. Rabba Bar Avua switched the names, and in his version of this brisa or this Mishnah, he said socher Ketzim Mishalim. Rav Meir Omer Kashomer Socher, and Rabbi Yehuda Omer Kashomer Chinam. And Rashi and Tosfos, I think, both point out the whole point of this answer isn't really change much. Just to say, for whatever reason, if we wanted to be mokim this answer like Rabbi Yehuda, there is another shita in Shas that switches the names. So Rabbi Yehuda really says like a shomer chinam, and Rav Meir really says like a shomer socher. But the answer is the same: that this socher is treated like a shomer chinam, and therefore he could have gotten out of, taking a shvua by just paying the amount. And then one last answer, then we'll end. Reb Zera Amar Hachamai Skinan, or really I'll tell you what's going on like this. But Toeing Tinus Listim Mizuyin, kind of a goofy case, where this Socher claims Listim Mizuyin, Venimsa Listim Shana Mizuyin. It turns out we checked the film and it wasn't Listim Mizuyin, meaning what happened? You got a Socher, and the Socher is treated like a Shomer Socher. He comes and he says, listen, it was an armed robbery, right? What do you want from me? It's an onus. And we said, okay, it was an onus, take a shvua. And you're putters. I don't want to take a shot. I'd rather just pay. Okay. Then we check the tape. We find the guy, and the guy never had a gun. It was like a banana, whatever it was. Like the guy just wasn't a list of Mizuyin, right? It was just a regular case of a ganim. Therefore, because it was a regular case of ganim, and the shomer socher already paid, the ganim is going to be chayiv keishal. That's how we make this all work. All right, shtayach.